Are you ready, kids?
Aye, aye, Captain!
You two guys have been friends for a very long time and performed music together for just as long, and I think you're the absolute perfect guest for us today. So
I agree, 100%.
The thing that I was really concerned about, and now I see looking back, is, a lot of these students in high school went through COVID during their formative years. I think one of the things that helped me, and Walter probably as well, was sports.
Yeah, it's the same voice.
You miss out on some of the joy of solving problems and growing when you overcome an obstacle. So I really think it's the teacher's responsibility to get to know the students individually, and then that can help you motivate that student.
welcome to Valley Vibes, your show about culture, arts, and happenings in the Imperial Valley from a youth perspective. I'm Dr. Tom Tackey, the creator and executive producer of Valley Vibes. Today, we're joined by El Centro's own Walther Beasley and Derek Cannon, two longtime music professors with a magnitude of contributions to music education. Welcome, Derek and Walter. How are you all?
Hey, what's up?
Hey, thank you for having us. Thank you. Welcome.
Yeah.
Good to be here.
It's great having you here. Walter joined us on Valley Vibes before and was part of our Voices del Valle podcast.
Yes, I've heard some of the excerpts.
Yeah, but this is the first time we've had you on, Derek. I'm really excited about this,
Thank you. Me too.
And as I told Derek and Walter when I invited them to be part of this episode, I'm kind of interested in getting your perspectives on how music education was impacted by the COVID pandemic and, like more recently, how AI is affecting music and music education. And you two guys have been friends for a very long time and performed music together for just as long. And I think you're the absolute perfect guest for us today. So anyway.
Thank you.
So growing up in the Imperial Valley, school music programs are really often about more than just learning notes and technique. That it was about communities and places where students found structure, mentorship, identity. Is that sense of togetherness that became especially clear when the pandemic hit, and suddenly those places disappeared almost overnight.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start there. When COVID shut down, classrooms moved online, rehearsals stopped, performances were canceled. And for music education and art built on collaboration and live interaction, that was really difficult. So, from your perspective as professors, what changed the most, do you think, during that period?
Whoa. Right off the top of my head, I would say just the connection, as you mentioned before, that you have with other musicians and the camaraderie. The thing that I was really concerned about, and now I see looking back, is, a lot of these students in high school went through COVID during their formative years when they should be, as you mentioned before, they should be collaborating and learning and, having structure and mentorship and those types of things. All that went out the window and it was gone. And I notice now that it really affected the way they communicate. Even now, the way they communicate is different pre-COVID versus post-COVID and the students that I deal with on a daily basis.
Yeah.
I agree 100%. And even the children who went through it, are having the same issues with communication. I've got two great niece and great nephew, and I'm more than aware of what COVID did to them as it relates to their ability to communicate with other children and with, people, but other children especially, which, as Derek just said, when we play music, I'll give you an example. I talked to a great saxophonist named Wilton Felder, who played with the Crusaders. And he said, Walter, the difference between your generation and mine is that, we have a full day of dealing with our children, full day of dealing with our family, so on and so forth. And then we would come to the studio and all those influences, all those experiences, all those conversations went right into the music. Your generation doesn't have that. Now, that's because we went to the computers. Now, you add COVID to the situation, there's almost none of that, which changes the music, period. Because nobody's talking to anybody and no one really understands the value I would say, but during that time, no one really understood the impact of what COVID would do as it relates to producing music the way we used to produce it.
Yeah. I'll give you just a perfect example of Walter and myself. So, on all of Walter's recordings, he and I are not in the studio at the same time. But when you listen to the recordings, you would think we were in the studio at the same time. That's
Right.
because we grew up connecting musically, and that never went away. I remember the first time when I did Message to Mark and I listened to it, it was eerie, Walt, because I was like, wow, it's like we never stopped playing together. And that connection was established very early on when we were probably 8, 9, 10 years old.
Yeah.
And that's continued our whole entire life. So that's a perfect example of that. And that never went away as
Yep.
far as the time that Walter and I were brought up and how we communicated musically. And we never lost that.
Yep.
And that's really fascinating. I mean, that's I guess I hadn't really completely thought about those, those earlier connections that musicians have and such. That's and you're right. I mean, it's once COVID hit, a lot of kids didn't even have instruments. And they weren't playing their instruments at home and stuff. But it's
And programs were decimated. Programs were decimated. All my friends that are music educators in the Grossmont High School District, because I draw a lot of students from there.
Right.
They were done. Students didn't want to study online. That connection, as you mentioned, was lost, and that did it. It took me several years after we came back face to face to build my program back up because of that. What happened during that time period, the lack of connectivity.
Exactly. When we look at you two growing up in the Valley and the power of Derek, your dad's program, Jimmy Cannon's program, and the impact that it had on not only Central but all of the Valley, and I think we were seeing some changes, before COVID where maybe some of the programs did not have the strength that they'd had prior to it. That there was some that were defunded somewhat. And then COVID provides this finishing off, I guess, of some of those. Where am I going with this? I guess when we look at the kids that you would have that you had these last few years, they lost out the better part of their high school years. I mean, the when they were going to really get good, and so you've already mentioned that affected the size, and I'm assuming the quality of the programs as well. Correct?
Most definitely. One of the things I teach at Grossmont Community College, and it used to be you go to community college 2 years and you transfer to the university. Well, I was just thinking as you're talking, a lot of my students now, especially in my jazz program, have been there for 4 years or so because they were behind the 8 ball coming to Grossmont College because of COVID. And then I think they realized that lost connectivity they had, and now they're like really hungry and very enthusiastic about what they're doing, and they love it because they realize that big part of their life was missing and taken from them at a very crucial time in their lives and their development. So that's the other thing I notice is they hang around longer. They're comfortable. They like the environment. They feel like they can explore their creativity, and they've missed that. And they don't want to move on. They like where they are because they feel they're valued as students. And I think a lot of that connection, as we mentioned, was lost during COVID.
That's, I would say that we saw something kind of similar here at Central. When we came back from COVID, the kids were really happy to be back with one another. There was some apprehension about, being in the same room with each other, but you're right. They did hang out longer. And while the band programs suffered, the larger ensemble suffered tremendously from lack of rehearsals and stuff. I had a lot of kids that stayed at home for those 2 years and played guitar. And they came back and they were pretty good guitarists.
Yeah.
And so the rock combo kind of took off afterwards. And so, are you saying that now your ensembles at this point in time have maybe a higher level of quality than
I
prior, or
I would. Matter of fact, my jazz band right now is the best jazz band I've ever had. And every semester, normally you have a lot of turnover. And every semester I'm like, okay, who's planning on coming back or not coming back? So I know what I need to recruit. And I would say 95% of those students are still coming back and coming back. So the quality of my ensembles have been really, really good. The best I've ever had because of that. It's really interesting.
that is interesting.
And I would like to just piggyback on that. Derek is being a bit shy at this point too. I think a lot of it has to do with the quality of the teacher, the quality of the instruction as well.
Yeah.
When Derek and I were coming up, Derek more so than I, would have private lessons with Mr. Cannon. Right. So when COVID hit for me, I was still teaching, but privately. When COVID hit for me, all I did was remember, how I was taught from Mr. Cannon on one-to-one experience. So when I couldn't sit in front of the kids, I would still pretend that I was sitting in front of the kids or sitting in front of the students, and I would teach them the way he taught us. And that was invaluable for me because, and Derek too, because I know, I speak for him sometimes because we both, it's
Same.
like,
It's the same.
it's the same voice. Yeah, it's the same voice. So I found that, especially with the younger kids now, with some of the people that I teach, that if I teach the way his father taught me on a one-on-one setting, I can make up for some time that they spent away from other people simply because, due to COVID. And I think I know the way Derek teaches. So if people come into that situation, after COVID and have Derek as a teacher, knowing how he's going to teach them one-on-one and then split them into sections and so on and so forth, that more than makes up for the COVID era, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And prior to us doing this thing, Derek, you and I were talking a little bit about teaching and such, and how the psyche of students is tremendously different now than it was before.
Yes.
That maybe they're a little bit, I don't know if the right word is fragile, but they are different.
They are.
And you indicated that your approach always has been one of kind of kindness and dignity, and and I think back to some of my prior teachers, and that certainly wasn't part of their,
Different time period. Yeah.
they may not have been like whiplash, but at times I don't think it was far from it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure how that would go during this time.
I think one of the things that helped me, and Walter probably as well, was sports. Because I was used to, coaches getting in my face and screaming at me and yelling at me. I never took it personally. I'm used to that, so it didn't really bother me. And so I've had some tyrants on the musical side as well at rehearsals and whatnot, and I have no problem towing the line and being on time and doing what they want me to do and behaving myself. And I think a lot of that I learned from sports. Because people ask me sometimes, where do you get your teaching philosophies from? I said, really good coaches, to be honest with you. Because in sports, that's what a coach does. He brings people together, right? He's got to get them all on the same page. He or she, both, doesn't matter. It could be a female coach as well. But I just garnered a lot from coaches that just how they think mentally and how they approach motivating their players. And so that's worked really well for me on the musical side. My dad used to always say, you really need to get to know your students because each student is different. Some students, Walter knows, is some students, you show them something, boom, they're good. You don't have to do a thing. Other students take a little more time for you to get to, I don't want to say baby them, but kind of bring them along slowly because every student has a different need. So I really think it's the teacher's responsibility to get to know the students individually, and then that can help you motivate that student. And then I think the student also respects the fact that they see you're trying to get to know them, you're not treating them like a number. And I think they respond well to that too. And that's kind of what's helped me succeed as a teacher is I'm really, just to pat myself on the back, I'm pretty insightful. And I learned that from my dad. He'd point things out to me from time to time about somebody, and I'd be, wow, I never thought that. I never thought about it that way. And I look back now and I realize it was constant life lessons growing up with him. Just little something here he'd point out to you, and I'd kind of go, wow, what, just amazed, and just the way he'd sum somebody up very quickly. Yeah, my dad could sum you up in 2 seconds. He was the most intelligent man I've ever known in my life. True.
Remember, Derek, remember when, what was that thing they used to have on Downbeat where they would ask people, who's playing and like,
Oh
what was
yeah.
that? Blindfold test.
Blindfold test.
I
Yeah.
would bring your records to your father, man, and I'd be like, I got to get him today. I would and he always was right about the music. And I'll give you an example. And one day I called him up and I said, Mr. Cannon, how come you always knew, the ethnicity of the people, the gender, so on? So he said, Walter, I'm going to tell you one thing. He said, let's just consider Latin music. He said, the difference between people who grew up in the Latin community and other communities is that dance is an integral part of the music. So their timing is going to be much different than, say, blacks or whites. It's just different. So because when we play the blues, sometimes we play behind the beat, and it's not about dancing. It's about what we went through that day and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes we don't feel in rhythm, but not with their music. In their music, dance is an integral part of the music. So if I hear somebody playing, right in time in the center of the groove and stuff like that, and they're doing a little rhythm, I always know that that's that culture. That's probably from them. Now, just one of the situations, but he never failed to be able to identify the ethnicity, the age. Even he could tell the anxiety in somebody's playing when they were too young and they were trying to do something that they couldn't do. I learned so much from that, and I approach that in my. I use that in my teaching as well. And as Derek said, you have to know, who the person is, and not only that, but you have to know where they come from. You have to know what kind of situation they come from, and that way you can reach them where they are.
You're listening to Valley Vibes, featuring a discussion with music professors and recording artists Walther Beasley and Derek Cannon. All Valley Vibes episodes are available on the Spartan Sound Productions YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts, including Spotify, Apple, and iTunes.
Yeah. That's the main thing, just to piggyback on that, is I try to meet students where they are.
Mm-hmm.
I don't judge. Everybody comes from different backgrounds, whatever the case may be. It's my job to get the best I can out of that student. And that's my job, very simply, to motivate them. And I get great pride in that. I remember my dad, when we were in high school, he'd say, so-and-so over there, you watch. They're going to be a great musician one day. And it might be somebody who wasn't that great at the time, but he would see, years ahead, you watch. He goes, this person's going to be, and he was right every single time.
Yes.
Yeah, sometimes it's the struggle is necessary.
Always.
Absolutely.
Those ones that things come to pretty naturally, and they have a tremendous amount of talent and technique, yet they haven't had to struggle.
That's it.
And, you get those ones that, their stuff is not perfect, but man, they can bring the music,
Exactly.
So,
Mr. Cannon used to have us. Mr. Cannon would have us marching almost before sunrise. We were there maybe 5 or 6 miles. Speaking of sports, and we were trained as athletes playing music. So, by the time we got through with that, and then that was before we even really got into the Central to play the music. So when we got to Central to play the music, we were warmed up. Some of us were tired, really tired from marching and we would go through the whole half a day playing music and camaraderie. What's that word I'm talking? Man, my vocabulary is gone. And
Camaraderie?
Yeah, with each other. And the whole it was a big ass family. Oh, can I say that?
yeah,
Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
to that point,
big ass happy family.
yeah, you teach at Central. The nice thing about that, when I've met people, over the years, your dad was my teacher, that I didn't go to high school with, who my dad taught. And there is a connection you have with somebody who played in the great Central band, Spartan band. Even if you weren't in high school at the same time, as soon as you meet them, you just feel it. We all had it. It's really, and I felt that for years when I meet somebody. Oh yeah, I played in the band and blah 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 blah, and right away you feel this connection with them.
Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah.
That's very true.
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly what the COVID years kind of took away, was that, it was that personality and being in the same room. I think that we can show that we care and such through the online instruction, but there was some, being there is completely different.
Yeah, you can't replicate that.
No.
That's all there is to it.
No.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you're seeing that things are back on track, perhaps, and they are different,
And
such.
I'm so pleased to hear that that Rock Combo's back.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Can I tell you a quick Walter Beasley story in Rock Combo?
Please do.
Here we go.
So Walter was always a really good singer, but it was, believe it or not, we had to kind of get him to sing. I don't know if you remember this, Walt. I remember this distinctly because Rock Combo was started my senior year, so Walter was a sophomore. And there was a song we were working on by Tower of Power called "So Very Hard to Go." And I can't remember who was singing it, but it wasn't happening. And Walter was kind of singing it in the background, and we could tell we knew he could sing. So I remember we said, "Come on, Walt, come on." We all had to kind of encourage him. And he killed it the first time he sang it. And I think that was almost the beginning of your singing career.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember that or not, but I remember it distinctly.
Was it Michael Crow?
It might have been Michael Crow
I think it
someone
was
trying to
Michael
sing
Crow.
it. And nothing against
Yeah.
Michael Crow. It's just,
Yeah, exactly.
it just wasn't happening,
Yeah.
respectfully.
I remember that. Yeah.
And Walter was kind of humming. I think I was probably even standing next to him. He's kind of humming it.
Probably.
know?
Probably.
And then I think somebody else heard Walt humming it. We're like, "Come on, let's have Walter sing it. Come on." And we all just kind of jumped on the bandwagon. "Come on, Walter." Walter's kind of like, then he sang it. And then and after that, Walter sang a lot after that experience. So I think it was almost the beginning of the singing side of his music.
Yeah. And to Derek's point, I mean, that only because that instrument was so personal, and whatever. But to Derek's point, we grew up, again, Mr. Cannon, here we go. I mean, if somebody didn't show because they were sick in the band room, guess who would be playing their part? On the instrument they played would be Mr. Cannon.
Yeah.
So I look back and I'd be like, wow, that's a different kind of groove for that song. And Mr. Cannon would be playing drums.
Oh yeah.
Right?
I have.
And then as we matured, that became Derek. Derek was playing drums, and Derek was singing. Derek's playing trumpet, and I'm 2 years behind. I'm playing. That was just normal for us. We were encouraged to be those type of musicians and those type of people. If one man goes down, you just go ahead and step in. It's almost like the military. You step into his position and you do what he does to the best of your ability, so that the song could be taken care of. And that was how we grew up.
I'll tell you a quick story. Growing up my whole life, people kept saying, "Oh, your dad's a great trumpet player, great trumpet player, great trumpet player." So, like Walter, I used to take lessons at Hoffman Music downtown. It's not there anymore, but there's a music store downtown that Mr. Hoffman ran, and then upstairs there's studios. And my dad used to teach. He'd teach at Central till 3, and then go teach lessons from 3:30 to about 5:30 or 6, like 4 days a week. And so one day I'm waiting. I was his last student because then my mom would drop me off. I would be his last student, and I'd ride home with him.
I don't know.
And so I'm sitting outside the door listening to some terrible trumpet playing and some great clarinet playing. I already know where I'm going with this. Because people keep saying, "Your dad's such a great trumpet player." And I'm like, okay, this trumpet player, whoever's in there, does not sound good. That can't be my dad. So the door flies open, and there's my dad holding a clarinet. "Hi, Derek, how you doing?" And my jaw dropped. Because I've seen him play drums and clarinet and saxophone. I mean, he was an incredible musician to Walter's point. And we just kind of grew up with that. And, sometimes when I'm teaching, I'll walk over to a student on piano, "Hey, try voicing it this way." And they'll look at me like, "How'd you know that?" Or I'll tell the drummer, "Hey, when you play your groove, you're too tight. Try it like this on your right cymbal, but let me show you." And they're like, how do you know to do that?" So we just kind of grew up with that. We just grew up that way. So for us, it's kind of natural in that environment that we grew up in. As Walter was saying.
And one thing about we haven't gone there yet, but one thing about the whole COVID thing, and maybe a different way of thinking or approaching it, is his father would encourage us to write and arrange as well. So we would have to think about other musicians, other parts, what they did within the music and how to write for that part and so on and so forth. And I remember by the time I was a junior, I could hear or could anticipate what players were supposed to be doing what, regardless of the music, because he was teaching us how to be composers, teaching us how to be arrangers, as well as trumpet players and saxophone players. Then I remember it was one of my last memories of Central was that he used to give us an opportunity to write an arrangement for the graduation or something like that.
Yeah.
And Bird, wasn't Larry Bird?
Larry Bird.
Larry Bird.
He was one of the musicians my dad said, "You watch."
Yes.
He's one of the musicians he said, "You watch. He's going to be a great musician." He was the guy I was thinking about.
that young man died, man. So anyway, he did that, and I remember thinking to myself, I want to try it. And I told Mr. Cannon, I said, Mr. Cannon, I've never done this before, and I don't, but I like what he's doing, and I like the way the other instruments sound together. He said, "Well, do it." So I remember I did it, and it was horrible. It was horrible. Horrible. He didn't know the song. He didn't know who did it. It was Bread by Audrey by Bread.
Aubrey.
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 So I
Beautiful
did
song,
that together.
yes.
This man, he took the score, and as we were all playing together, I was like, "Oh, I forgot the key. I forgot the sharp. I forgot this flat. Blah blah." And as we're playing it, he corrects everything as we're going the first time through, and I'm looking at this man like, "This is JC." By the time he finished with it the first time through and made the adjustments and marked the pages out, when I went back home and I looked at it, I was just so amazed at his ability to make the changes. But not only that, but that experience really helped me to become a better musician because he encouraged me to do something that he knew that I had a problem with. And I think that's helpful for me post-COVID in that, to identify these problems that people have, even psychological, all that kind of stuff. It affects the music. And if they're insecure about something, and you can kind of, like Derek said, treat them one-on-one and help them to get over that hump, whatever their hump is, and to make the whole unit better, man, that's a hell of a feeling as a teacher. And he gave that to us.
And Larry Bird, by the way, is a college professor in Texas. So he's one of those kids my dad said, you watch. This kid's going to be a great musician. Here he's
incredible. So, he was incredible at 16. 15, yeah.
Where did you say he's at, Derek?
He's somewhere, I can't remember the school, but he's teaching at a college in Texas, I believe, last I heard. Yeah.
I thought he went to Philly. He went to Philly for a while, Oberlin, didn't he?
Maybe. I mean,
I think he might be up there. He went there to go to school.
But his career took off. And my dad, even when people, I remember people kind of snickering about something he played, my dad's like, you watch.
Mm-hmm.
And he's who I was thinking about when I told that story earlier.
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
You're listening to Valley Vibes, featuring a discussion with music professors and recording artists Walther Beasley and Derek Cannon. All Valley Vibes episodes are available on the Spartan Sound Productions YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts, including Spotify, Apple, and iTunes.
So, that's all just amazing. And it brings us kind of where we're at now. So, as educators, you're adapting to the aftermath of COVID, and all of a sudden, artificial intelligence enters the conversation in a major way. So, our students have that access to AI tools that can generate music and assist with composition, analyze performances, help practice and theory. But so I suppose maybe it's like a creative partner for some of them, but others, raises those questions about originality, authorship, and what it means to learn music. So, I'd like to hear from both of you how you're seeing students using AI in music right now, intentionally or unintentionally. And then, Walter, where do you see it from a compositional standpoint? What's it going to do to the industry?
Yeah, Walter.
It's already done it.
Yeah, Walter's the person that can really speak on this.
You know what? And again, and I hate to say it, and people gonna be like, Walter. One time, me and Derek were having Derek and I. What's the correct Derek? Me and Derek. Derek and I.
Derek and I.
Derek and I were having a conversation. Thank you. This happens all the time, Tom. Ever since we were kids. So Derek and I were having a conversation, and I was like, Derek, sometimes I feel so inadequate because it seemed like I'm parroting everything your father said growing up, even with the changes that happened in the music industry. I don't feel like I have my own voice. And I remember Derek saying, well, I feel the same way sometimes. And again, with the AI thing, I've been thinking about it. And actually, I'm a student of AI because when he started coming up and started taking over, I thought, well, what would Mr. Cannon do? What would JC do? And all, whatever. And I remember when we were coming up, there was some music and some things that were happening that he really didn't like. But he never was prejudicial about music that we brought in there that we might have liked or tools that we might have been using to help make us better musicians. And that's what, when I see AI, and I'm not, I don't know that much about it yet, but I'm going to. I don't fear changes like that happen because of my instruction when I was a child. He wasn't afraid of anything that he didn't know. He took it on. He encouraged us to be better musicians. And when I would, tell him stuff that I was learning up here, and he would say, yeah, Walter, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, dang, he's so open. And that's what makes him such a great musician, because he never was afraid, I think, of others. He may not have liked them, but he never judged us when we tried to do something new or when other things came into play. He always accepted our, whatever, and encouraged us to do better. And that's what I do with AI. As I'm learning it, I'm like, well, it's a tool. Mm-hmm. If I approach it like a tool, if I approach it like a tool, excuse me for 1 second, if I approach it like a tool and I use it for that purpose and that purpose alone to be a better musician and even to be a better human being, then it's a useful tool.
Period. Yeah, exactly. It's sort of, embracing new tools, I think, is something that we see, all the great musicians doing as the new things come. There, it's like I've told students always that, every genre, every style has some example of something really, really good.
Right.
And every genre and every style has garbage.
Yeah.
That isn't worth your time.
Yeah.
Sure.
And, I think you made a good point that we can assume that everything coming out of AI is going to be terrible. Well, not necessarily. If I use AI quite a bit for doing my scripts and such. Mm-hmm. And if I depended solely on that, it would be terrible. And it's a matter of getting it into my own voice. It provides me with ideas, but it's also, what you put into it. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm finding is the biggest part, is what you ask it to do, and the information that you provide it is what you're going to get out. So
now you sound like Mr. Cannon.
Garbage in, garbage out. But
that's what he would say. What you put into it is what you're going to get. That's exactly what something he would say.
Yeah.
Well,
sure.
Yeah. And you got to excuse me, man, because me and speaking for myself, Derek, sometimes I was so envious and jealous because if it's just damn, Derek gets in 24/7, because what would come from him would be so amazing. But there, like you just said, Tom, what you put into, there was a time when, and I use this as an example, and I'm gonna be quiet because they're actually like I said before, Derek is a much better musician, more complicated, more in tune with what's going on now, and a better musician than I've ever been. Much more disciplined because he got that from his father. Was, oh my God, he was so disciplined. But I forgot the I'm gonna say.
All right, I get to use a beep. That's gonna be great.
Time to beep that one out.
No, I'm good at it.
Oh my God! And I guess that's a good thing about AI too. If you set it up right, these moments you can kind of
yes. Case in point.
Yes. That's it. It left me, and so I'm sorry, y'all.
Well, I'll just say I also agree. I mean, I don't know a lot about AI. I'm learning more about it. I know San Diego State, my alma mater, is actually launching a new degree in AI, and I'm sure other.
Oh wow!
I'm sure other, institutions of higher learning are going to follow suit very soon. You have to. It's the sign of the times. And if I can quote Prince, it's the sign of the times.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the way it is. And I tell students this all the time. I said, I'm open, but I'll also say, but you also have to realize I'm also old school, and I'm all about somebody learning their craft. That whole 10,000 hour thing is a real thing, But yeah, I mean, there's always going to be positives and negatives. I'll give you a perfect example. It's not music related, but I just remodeled my kitchen, and AI helped me tremendously because I'll just throw out colors and how does this color scheme work and blah, 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 blah. And it makes suggestions. And so there are ways in your daily life that AI can be very helpful. I just don't want it to be a substitute for thinking, critical thinking.
Yes.
That's the thing that I worry about the most, because students can just say, create a paper on blah, 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 boom, there it is. Do a comparative analysis on, Monk versus Wayne Shorter's compositional styles. Boom, there it is. You know what I mean? So there's something that you lose in not participating in that and doing the work, struggling, as Walter mentioned earlier, and learning all that. So that's the only thing I worry about is being a substitute for education, or a substitute for you really learning your craft. And that's the thing that I worry about the most, to be honest with you.
Sure.
Because I find with, one of the, if I think about obstacles that students run into, the biggest obstacle I find is it's hard for them to focus for sustained periods of time.
Yeah.
It's, you know what I mean? I tell them, I said, look, there's no shortcut to becoming a great musician. Otherwise, everybody on the street would be a great musician. You have to put not only just practicing, but listening, and playing with other musicians and failing, like Walter mentioned, and struggling. All those things go into building you up in your development as not only as a person, but a musician as well. They're both very directly related, obviously. So that's my only thing that I say, well, you got to be careful when it comes to shortcuts with music, because and you miss out on some of the joy of solving problems and growing when you overcome an obstacle. You feel great about that. You're like, okay, I can do this. Now let me move on to the next obstacle, and then the next obstacle. So that's the thing I would just want to caution on when it comes to AI. So
Sure.
yeah.
And then even, I suppose, the social media and the length of attention.
Oh, yeah.
And how that's affecting us.
That's one thing you know that too. We all know that. The attention span is crazy. I teach 2 large lecture classes. One is jazz history and one is history of hip hop culture, which is a course I created. And I can't have any downtime because you give them 3 seconds, 4 seconds, and then they're gone.
Yeah.
So that's the hardest thing is finding ways to keep them focused and engaged when you teach a class, and that's something that's changed. I look back, because I've been teaching now for almost 30 years, and I look back, say students I had 10 years ago or students I had 15 years ago, and they're very different than students you deal with now, and you have to approach them differently. Like we talked about there, we don't want to use the word fragile, but you definitely have to treat them differently. They're just a different group of people.
Yeah.
So you have to approach how you teach them differently. You can keep adapting, being open, as we talked about. And you have to continue to be open, try to meet them where they are. Because you can't go, no, I'm not going to change. This is how I teach. Sorry. That doesn't work. I've told them, I'm co-chair now of the music department, but I ran the music department at Grossmont College for 12 years. And I used to always tell my faculty, I'm like, this is 6-7 years ago, before COVID. I'm like, look, we need to start to adapt and change, because the way we used to teach music doesn't fly anymore. The courses we used to offer, that doesn't fly anymore either. We have to look at different ways to adapt to what's happening currently and what students want to study, like, technology and things like that. So I think it's a continuous, as an educator, you have to be open and continually adapt.
Yes.
As Walter mentioned, you can't stay the same. The way you taught 5 years ago doesn't work anymore.
Right. And even I'm thinking like the length of songs that people compose, particularly like in some of our, our jazz styles and such, that, we know that there's value in length. But I guess maybe if we go back to,
Yeah, but I was going
bebop, that's the.
That's where I was going. That's where I was going. And again, one of the I can't stand this sometimes, man. But we were at Orange Coast Jazz Festival, and I was playing. I was starting to get a little nervous, and I was playing a whole lot of stuff. Just extending the solos, extending the cadenzas. This was right before I went on stage. And Mr. Cannon knew me since I was a baby, so he like a cyclist. He was there, and he said, yeah, Derek was there too. Yeah, I was maybe a sophomore, freshman,
Sophomore, yeah.
Yeah, I was just at 14, 15 years old, you just, okay, this is my time. Boom, I'm gonna let. And he said, and he said something from the chair, and he said, and he didn't specifically tell me. It was a lesson for the whole ensemble. And he said it in a very clear, a very relaxed manner. He said, "Say what you have to say and shut up." Mm-hmm. That changed my life. Mm-hmm. It's not just about the music. It's about now. Now people have the problem with being impatient, all that kind of stuff. I'm like, and when he said that, it made absolute sense. Like, say what you have to say, then be quiet, leave space for the next person, so forth. I think what happens now, and that happened before. That was starting to happen before COVID. We were starting to lose a whole bunch of patience before COVID got into play. But now, as I think back, as you said, Tom, about bebop. Bird said what he had to say in 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And there has never been a saxophone player to come along after him that's been any better. So
Right.
if he gave us that information, and I got that information through Mr. Cannon, and somebody will get that information through me, then they'll be able to really, truncate what they have to say, be meaningful, be effective, and just, teach people to be that as the years go by, hopefully anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Wow.
I don't know if I was off. Was I on point?
No,
Or was
it's
right
that,
on
it's
point?
that focus. It's that focus we've been talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what AI can't give you. It can't give you the focus. It can't give you the structure. Well, it can tell you that, but it can't give you deep down inside that kind of. And I'll say one more thing. When we were young, Derek doesn't remember. Well, I had a problem around maybe 12, 13, 14. And you have to be a psychologist now with these kids too, because you really have to start thinking about what really motivate them. I wasn't practicing, and I was going downhill. And Mr. Cannon said something to my parents. My parents come aside one day. He said, because JoJo Higgins was one of the best saxophone players of my time when I was a kid. I looked up to JoJo, and I wanted to be like JoJo. And Mr. Cannon told my parents one day, he said, you know what? And he knew my parents were going to tell me. He said, if he practices more, he'll be like JoJo. And psychologically, I was like, what? And I started hitting it. And that's the thing that I think AI could never do. It can't do that type of thing for our hearts, for our soul, and our minds.
Yeah.
And that's anyway.
Well, yeah, because your music's so emotionally connected to you, So you can't learn that through AI. How to channel your emotions musically, your thoughts, your feelings,
Right.
what you're dealing with in your life, all your life experiences, all those things, your loves, your losses, that's all tied up in what we do as artists.
Right. And to be able to say that in 3 minutes.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I really appreciate the time that you've given us today.
Same.
And the insight. I mean, it's...
You know what, Tom? I don't even know if me and Derek have talked this long about music.
Never. I was thinking, I just want to say, Tom, before we did this, first of all, I was like, Walter and I in a podcast? Oh my goodness. Are you
I
sure?
think it's a good idea, man.
Well, I knew it would be great, but Walter's right. I mean, it's funny because Walter and I talk on the phone, but we don't have long, drawn-out conversations.
Mm-mm.
It's very, because we know each other so well. They're usually pretty short, succinct conversations. We don't talk for, people think, oh yeah, you Walter are so close, you're like brothers, you probably talk for hours. We actually do not talk for hours, to your point. But
yeah, because we already know what each other's going to say.
Yeah, exactly. But I knew, my respect for him, my love for him. I was like, oh, this is going to be great.
Yeah.
Just talking music, and I really appreciate you having us and talking about my dad's legacy, of course, and all those things. Really
Same.
appreciate it. Yeah.
Same.
Well, we want to, I want to do something more specific to the legacy at some point in time, and I'm just trying to figure out how to do that. So,
Well, we'll bring a tissue.
Many of them.
Yeah, and that's what's going to make it great.
Yeah,
it's going to
for
make it really.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah, it's a time. I think about my parents as well, and I think about I call that era the golden age. Because
most definitely.
I mean, you had people who were coming to Central to be in our band who were from Brawley, from California. I mean, Calexico, they were moving their citizenship. Oh, not citizenship. No, let me stop that.
Their
residency. Thank you, Paul.
Yeah. I got you, brother.
Thank you. I know. Always. Just to play in the Central band. And that's huge when you think about that. Just for the power of the music and the power of his instruction. Basically, and of course I'm bringing my parents as well. But what he taught me and Derek was, I mean, if you humble yourself to the music will teach you everything.
Mm-hmm. It really will. It's all there.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
And I'm grateful for this. I really am. This was great. Yeah.
Yeah, this is fun. I woke up this morning going, I can't wait for this, man.
Hey, I did the same thing.
Right?
I even put on my little shirt. I'm like, because I know Derek gonna have his thing together. I'm like, nah, the glasses and stuff. I'm like, I ain't coming out here in my little white wrinkled T-shirt, which I will do.
Oh my goodness!
All right.
Yeah.
Lucky it's radio, huh?
Right.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go.
Very grateful. Very
All right,
grateful.
guys.
Yeah,
Thanks
thank
a
you so
lot.
much.
All right, man.
Sean.
Love you, Boom.
Love you too, baby.
All right, take care. Bye now. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
This program was produced and brought to you by Spartan Sound Productions. Special thanks to our guests Derek Cannon and Walther Beasley. Thanks also to Dr. Thomas Tackey, creator and executive producer of Spartan Sound Productions, the administration of Central Union High School, Mr. Javier Fimbres, and Power 98 for hosting us, and to you, the listeners.